Hi, my name is Jason Palmer and I'm an English teacher from Toronto, Canada. Today we're going to talk about 11 natural expressions that you can use in your everyday English. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of expressions that we use in English that are usually idioms or some combination of phrases that really might not make sense to people that are not native speakers. So they're good to learn. Today we're going to take a look at 11 of them that are very quite common, and you might hear these almost every day. It's good to at least understand them, even better if you can practice using them to sound more like a native speaker. The first one we're going to talk about is to bend over backwards. To bend over backwards, this does not literally mean that your body bends in the opposite way. This means to put in a big effort for someone. For example, I can say, yesterday I really bent over backwards to finish that project for you. So I expect that I will be appreciated. Something like that, to indicate that you have put in a big effort. To bite off more than you can chew. Now this one's easy to remember simply because literally you can imagine this is a problem as well. If you literally bite more than you can chew, if you're eating a hamburger for example, that means you're going to have a problem swallowing this hamburger. But we use this mostly in a figurative sense. So maybe I wanted to impress my boss and I told my boss that I could have 5 reports done by tomorrow. Then I started to work on these reports and I realized that I had bitten off more than I can chew. So to bite off more than I can chew means I decided to do more work or something more than I could actually handle. So it's a good one to know, and be careful not to bite off more than you can chew. To work something out. To work something out is an expression that means to solve a conflict. Usually this conflict is between two people. So someone might ask me, how are you and Jim doing? And I could say, well, Jim and I had a conflict yesterday about the project we were working on, but we're trying to work it out. So this means we're trying to solve this conflict. In the nick of time. In the nick of time is a very common expression when you finish something just before it is due. So, for example, my boss might ask me, did you finish that project last week on time? And I could say, yes, we finished just in the nick of time. We finished it half an hour before it was due. So it was very close. But to be in the nick of time means that you are on time, but just very close. To sleep on it. To sleep on it is a good expression when you need to make a serious decision. So, for example, if you need to decide about whether or not to take a new job, whether to buy a car, or any other very serious decision that requires time to decide, you might say, I'm gonna have to sleep on it, or I will sleep on it and let you know tomorrow. So it doesn't literally mean that you really have to sleep overnight before you make this decision, but it means that you will take a few days, perhaps, to make a decision. So for a very serious decision, this is a good expression to use. To get the ball rolling. To get the ball rolling is an expression that means you need to do something to start. So, for example, maybe you have a new project that you were given yesterday, and you need to do the first task on that project. You might tell your team, okay team, well, let's get the ball rolling by meeting this morning to discuss our next steps in terms of this project. This is a way that you could use, let's get the ball rolling, to get something started. To know it like the back of your hand. Now, literally, this one's quite easy to think about or to remember because if you think about the back of your hand, you might know the back of your hand very well. So if you know something like the back of your hand, it means you know it very well. Maybe I might ask my team, do you know where we can find a good Java developer? And they might say, well, we should hire Eric. Eric knows Java like the back of his hand. He has been working in Java for 10 years. So to know something like the back of your hand, really to know something very well. By the skin of my teeth. By the skin of my teeth means that I did something and I was successful, but it was extremely difficult and I was very close to being unsuccessful. So maybe I could say something like, I managed to finish that job today by the skin of my teeth. Maybe this job was very difficult. It required skills I didn't have. And I was very close to making a mistake that might have ruined that job. But I managed to do it by the skin of my teeth. So I successfully completed it, even though it was very challenging. To end up doing something. To end up doing something means the result of what you did. To explain it more in detail, I will give you an example. So maybe your boss asks you, I heard that you had a problem with the project last week. What did you end up doing to fix it? So what he's asking here is, what was the end result of that challenge? So what did you end up doing? Well, I ended up canceling the project because we had a problem with the client or some other issue. So that was the result of that situation. Once in a while. Once in a while is an extremely useful expression because we use this to mean sometimes or occasionally. Someone might ask you, how often do you go shopping? And I could say, well, I go shopping once in a while. This means maybe once a month, maybe once every few weeks, not very often, and not never. Every now and then. Every now and then is really an expression that is a synonym of once in a while. So someone could ask you a very similar question, maybe, how often do you go salsa dancing? And I could say, well, I go salsa dancing every now and then. So this might be every couple of months, something like that. So again, this is quite similar to sometimes or occasionally. Okay, to review our 11 natural expressions, the first was to bend over backwards. Then we had to bite off more than you can chew, to work something out, in the nick of time, to sleep on it, to get the ball rolling, to know it like the back of your hand, by the skin of your teeth, to end up doing something once in a while and every now and then. Please remember to subscribe to our channel below, and I will see you next time.